Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings, and we're back to Anne McCaffrey after this lengthy period of more than a month of talking about a 10th-rate fantasy romance novel series. So the Harper trilogy, these are, to my understanding, actually YA books. And they do reflect it in terms of the sort of speed with which they go past and the length of them and so on and so forth. They're very, very quick reads, but they're really, really enjoyable. They're something that I very much enjoyed, the first time I read them and still enjoy all these years later. Because, whether or not a book is aimed at a kid or an adult, if it's an enjoyable book, it's an enjoyable book. So this is the copy that I own. That is the Harper Hall omnibus trilogy as published by a book club edition by Nelson Doubleday. But it's a very large hardcover, so in order to, have a more purse-sized book, so that I could read it on the bus because I have a real job, I had to, for all three of these, take versions out of the library, and so what I wound up reading was one with this cover. So this is a 1970s publication edition, as you can tell by the style of the cover, which I couldn't find an attribution for, so, it is what it is. Dragonsong is... Anne McCaffrey very frequently put women's rights stuff into her books. This is about a girl who wants to be a harper. For those who haven't read the Pern series, harpers are the crafts on Pern, let's back up a little bit further even, at the more or less quote-unquote present time, are kind of like guilds, that you have these organizations, and the farmer crafts are the ones who, they teach, farming, and in particular farming skills. And you have various ranks of apprentice, journeyman, and master, with different specializations. You have master herdsman, you have, you have various ones. The harpers and the smiths, however, they are the ones most talked about in this series, at least any of the ones I've read. And they are the two lines of crafts, of guilds in this series that sort of go beyond what you would expect. The harpers, the master smiths, the smiths are, they do stuff like making swords and weapons and things, but they are also, in point of fact, engineers. They're the ones who build flamethrowers. They're the ones who work on, technological advances. Master Smith Fandarrel, who is the head of all of the smiths, is the guy who invents what is, in effect, a telegraph. But the harpers, they are musicians. That is a fundamental thing that they do, but they are also teachers, and literally, Pern has switched over to a teaching system that is less text-based because it's a difficult... They're a much lower tech level society, and so writing is not a thing that you can afford to do. They don't have reams of writing surfaces that will provide permanent ability to write things down on. And so one of their primary education modes is song. That is, the harpers teach people songs, and you memorize songs that teach you about history, that teach you about what you owe to the various weirds who look after you, what the various roles of people are in society, how to survive threadfall, and so on and so forth. Because the thing is, songs are a very, very good way of transmitting information permanently. If anyone listening to this, you know that there are songs that you learned when you were 6 years old that you will know for the rest of your life, that, you can't remember that pop song you heard on the radio last week, but that thing that you learned in grade 2, you will remember that forever, even though you wish you didn't sometimes. This goes out to anybody who has ever heard the song involving the words "Nous avons tourné disque et salut les amis." Trust me, I wish I didn't remember that, but I do. Obnoxious French class learning songs are obnoxious. Anyways, the thing is that harpers are, by the time we reach Dragonsong, they are an extremely gendered thing, that men are harpers and women do not get to be harpers. Pern is very, very reflective of Anne McCaffrey's discussions of sex politics, and so Menolly's story of a young girl who is very, very talented at music, who is a talented songwriter, who is from an extremely conservative hold, which is in effect because holds are in effect small towns up to cities in terms of the numbers of people living in them, and her father being the holder of Half Circle Sea Hold means that she's basically, it's like she's the mayor for life's daughter. He's extremely conservative. He doesn't believe in music as anything important, and on top of which, Menolly is a girl, so she should be doing girl things. She should not be impinging on masculine areas of song and whatnot. And this story opens with the previous Harper having just died, and Menolly being the only one capable of singing the songs that are required at burial, and her having lost her mentor, having lost practically the only person in Half Circle Sea Hold that cares about her and that thinks that she should be a musician, who think that she should be a harper. Harpers are also, by the way, a very complex network of spies and whatnot, something that comes up way more in the third book in this series, so we'll get there. We'll talk about that when we get there. Menolly is, therefore, somebody who has really, really had her self-confidence practically beaten out of her, literally beaten out of her on some levels, and in the course of this book, she is constantly struggling with a sense of self-worth, with a desire, with a love of music and a desire to be this, and everything in her path thwarting her. And then the new Harper comes, and Menolly, when they are gutting fish that has been brought in from the most recent catch, she slices her hand open, and one of the fish, it has a particularly noxious slime coating, and she gets that into her hand, and she has a very, very severe infection, and it heals badly. It heals so badly that she has trouble opening and closing her fingers, which basically means at that moment in time she thinks she'll never be able to play guitar again. She'll never be able to do anything with her hand again by way of making music. And basically, this whole thing, it breaks her in some ways, and she winds up running away. And the big key about this series is that she makes friends she helps a local fire lizard, the tiny proto-dragons that got, in a previous book in the series that I will talk about eventually at some point when I feel like it, were bioengineered into proper dragons, but they're precursors known as fire lizards. are still around. And Menolly helps one because that one had laid her eggs on a beach, and Menolly basically helps her by picking up the eggs and hiding them away, and because of various events, she's in that cave that she helped move those eggs to when those eggs hatch, and winds up impressing, that is, having imprint on her, 9 fire lizards. 1 gold, Beauty, 2 bronzes, Rocky and Diver, 3 browns, Lazybones, Mimic, and Brownie, 2 greens, Auntie 1 and Auntie 2, and 1 blue named Uncle. And the thing is that this whole book is just Menolly struggling with being suppressed, with eventually her rescue, and she is picked up because she gets caught out during Threadfall and is running for safety and gets picked up and brought back to Bend and Weir. And while she is in Bend and Weir, the Master Harper, Rabinton, we all remember Rabinton, who had been looking for her because the Harper at Half Circle had sent Rabinton Menolly's songs, some of the ones that she'd written, and Rabinton had been looking for this incredibly talented apprentice ever since those songs had been sent, and Menolly had no idea. And this whole book is just, it's about vindication, it's about struggles and feeling, and Menolly's way, and Menolly feeling like less than she actually is, and that sense of vindication when she finds out that the Master Harper himself saw her songs, that he wants her songs, that he wants her to be a Harper, even though she's a girl, even though she's nothing more than the youngest daughter of some Seahold. And it's a wonderful, wonderful book. I think the one downside of this book is that because it's YA, because of what it is, it speeds past a lot of things, and there are parts of this that I wish we could have gotten a little more of Menolly at Bendon, a little more of other things. It would be problematic because the second book, in a lot of ways, is reliant on Menolly having been basically bopped around from, running away to living in a cave to Bend and Weir to the Harper Hall in the second book, and it relies a great deal on Menolly's sense of disorientation from having been, just thrown about so much emotionally. But despite that, that's its only flaw, is that there isn't enough of it. It has its flaws, doubtless, if you go and look for them, but it's a kind of book that, for me at least, I read through it, and I get to the end, and I sigh in disappointment, because I always wanted just a little bit more. And I feel that way about this book. I'm not sure that I have anything else really to say. It's the second book where I think I have more stuff, I think. I don't know. I've said it before, I kind of just do these and talk off the cuff and go. So, having nothing more to say on this particular one, I think that's everything, and I will see you all next week.